How we doing, everybody? Back at you again. Uh, Beautiful day, Saturday. You know, it's not as warm outside. It's probably, I would probably say in the high 60s, low 70s maybe. I usually like it a lot warmer, but it's still nevertheless a beautiful day. The Lord woke us up this morning. Very thankful. Just for what He's done and how He just blesses us with so much grace and mercies day by day. So beautiful day. Always, always, just to see another day. So today is day 14. You know, we made it. Day 14. Definitely, this is this series. I'm not sure if it's been a blessing to you, but it's definitely been a blessing to me. Just to come, and be able to share and I just thank whoever's watching. Really appreciate you watching. Means a lot. Hope you've been blessed during this time. I know we've been talking about the focus of the week being just making an uncommon commitment or sacrifice to your new organization, whether that be, a new job, new church. Definitely, we've been talking about that and, I've been hitting on that and what I wanted to do this morning with this particular video is discuss and get into uh, where I am in terms of. I just see a dog walking in my yard. You see him? You see him? Not sure if you all see him. He's kicking up dirt, but he's all right though. He's all right. Beautiful dog though. Beautiful dog. Um, but yeah, I wanted to just get into you know where I am in terms of the present. Because we've been talking about the past quite a bit, talking about testimonies, but more so, the strategies, talking about, the mastermind lines. We've been talking about that quite a bit, but I want to kind of switch up and really get into, where I am in terms of this journey to what I'm believing God for, which is our new home. So, my wife and I have really been on this journey for about, I would probably say close to maybe 6 years, maybe 7. I would probably say a good 7 to 8 maybe. And it's been quite a while. I know people that know us have been hearing about it for a long time. And I know some people may be thinking, what is it that's going to make that this time doing the series different than the previous 7 to 8 years? You know, um, and why I would say it's very important, to watch us during this time, even if you've heard us talking about it, preaching about it, saying God's going to do it. 'Cause I understand, when people talk about doing something and that they're doing things and that, they're working on something that hasn't naturally come to pass yet, but, it's a good thing. This guy's doing something positive, so I want to support him. But, after it doesn't, you know, happen, after a long period of time, sometimes people can get to the point where it just goes in one ear and out the other when you talk about it, you know. And it can get to the point where people stop listening, So, and Some people may be wondering how, what was it like just holding on that long, and just, what are you sensing is different right now than the other previous 7, 8 years? And I would tell them that, you know, I have more of a reason to move at this point. For most of that 7, 8 years, I was comfortable here, in Gary and just with this home. And when I originally talked with God about the home, I always had a sense it wasn't going to happen overnight. I always knew I was going to be in a waiting mode. It was when I started with this journey. I started with with this in mind that there was I would say, a very small part of me that made the goal, so big that there was a small part of me that thought that maybe God wouldn't answer me, you know, um, or He may take a long time to answer me and bring it to pass. So when I started this, it was never it didn't start with the thought process that it was realistic and that it was something that God may tell me He doesn't want to do. You know, how, like, I would say it was a little, what do they call it? Sarcastic. A little small part of it was sarcastic. Um, I just like when a parent tells their child, "Oh yeah, if you can go out and do this, and if you can, scrub my house down, make sure my house is looking spick and span, and you do this, you do that, and if you do all this, then I'll let you drive my car, my Mercedes. I'll let you drive my Mercedes if you do that." And so what happens is sometimes what the parent will do is, are they serious when they tell their children that? Yes, but they say those things with the idea that their children are never going to meet that expectation. You know what I mean? It wasn't that they were lying to their children, but they said it with a 1% expectation that the children will actually follow through, given their history. So on the flip end, when I told God this and said, "God, I'm gonna believe you for this. I'm gonna do these things your way." I was at a point where I was a little frustrated, for doing things my way, and I was ready for a change. And I got to the point where I said, "God, I'm gonna do things your way. I haven't been doing things. I've been doing things my way because I like being in control, like feeling like I'm in control. But God, I'm gonna do things your way, and I'm gonna lay my life over to you, God, and see what you can do with it." And so when I did that, I guess it was a little sarcastic in the sense that, and at the time I was talking to God specifically about my finances, because I was still doing some things I shouldn't have been doing. And, he was always tugging at my heart saying, "Look, you shouldn't be doing those things." And I got to the point where I said, "Okay, I'm going to stop doing those things." Because, when someone keep tugging you, stop doing that, you know, you would say, "Okay, I'm going to stop, but now I'm going to hand it over to you and see what you can do with it." And there's a small part of you that's thinking, he may not be able to do too much with it, more than what I'm doing. We may just go in a mode where he just maintains my situation. You know, you're not expecting him to really just blow your mind. And sometimes we can put God in that box because we based our expectations not based on the word of God, but we base it on what we see God do with others, not knowing that 100% of what we see God doing in others is always going to be up to that person to make the decision whether or not to follow his decrees, follow his laws, and be obedient by faith. And so it's really not about what God is doing in that person's life. It goes to where you're basing your expectation on what someone else decided to do with the Lord. And if you're surrounded by people who have decided not to do much with God, then you're automatically building an expectation thinking, okay, you know, God's not going to do much, if I give my life to him. So that was sort of the background, of the story, just at the time, when I said to God, I want, well, the thing is I knew God can do it, but at the time I was such in no man's land that there was a part of your mind that was thinking, will this ever happen? And so you get into a point where you're thinking that I'm okay. You convince yourself that you're okay with what you have for a long time to not be disappointed. If you're not able to be as perfect as you think God may require you to be, or there's some technicality in the Word of God that disqualifies you from thinking that big, because you see so many other people not thinking big and not making outrageous, you know, faith declarations that you sort of get into a point where you think, why aren't people doing it? And you get to a point where you're thinking, is it because of the people or because of God? And of course the logical thing is that it's the people, but sometimes our hearts aren't always logical. Sometimes we think that maybe that 1% chance that it's something more. You know, so this journey home for me is about answering that question once and for all. You know, it is about me just understanding why I have not seen more, you know, with people. And I think about the generations before me, where you talk about, and I hear my parents talk about how their parents had to struggle, and they've talked about it quite a bit. And so your parents struggled, but they were going to church, serving the Lord, singing in the church, had a Bible just like I have a Bible, but yet they were struggling. And when I say struggling, it can be fine. I'm talking about financially. And it makes you ask the question why were they struggling, in the back, and I'm talking deep down in your heart. I'm not talking about just surface, because there's things that we're dealing with deep down, and you can't just dismiss it with just trying with a simple explanation, logical explanation. Sometimes you gotta see more. You have to experience more to really talk back to what's deep down inside. And so, I'm starting this series out and this whole journey out with the ideology that my grandparents didn't have to struggle. You know, that if all they had was the word of God, it would have been enough to not just fulfill and to give them and to help them to conquer their financial struggles, but every struggle that they have, and you sometimes we don't go after certain things because we're thinking, I don't want to make it seem like I knew more than the generations before. I'm disrespecting the generations before, or I am not following my family's way of doing things, or I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to be the one that say, well, my grandparents didn't have to go through that, or you don't want to seem like you're correcting them or anything like that. So then sometimes, so that we don't offend with our success, we choose not to be successful. And it helps us in that we won't have to confront um, with certain things concerning our family. We won't have to confront the fact that, you know what, grandmom and granddaddy, you didn't have to struggle. And with saying that by itself, you may make people angry. You may make your parents angry. You get to a point where you may not want to hear or get in discussion where people are being defensive about simple things, about simple conversations. Because it's not, sometimes it gets to the point where you're not expecting really us to get to the truth. We're just getting to the point of trying not to defend the truth, but trying to defend a person's weaknesses, and thinking that us loving somebody is not being truthful about things we shouldn't have to go through, that we just go through things because we don't want to confront that maybe grandma didn't have to do, maybe there was another way, and it was hiding in plain sight. In plain sight, you know. So I know I'm saying all of this, but I'm saying all of this just to bring me to now. That, like I said, I believe it took so long because sometimes you're a little fearful of how simple the answer to the problem is. That with me getting this house, it means so many different things. It means my grandparents and my grandparents didn't have to struggle the way they did. It means that I didn't have to struggle as long as I have. And the answer was so right in front of me the whole time. Why didn't I use this thing sooner? Because sometimes it's better for us to be at peace with us not being where we should have been long time before if we're able to blame it on something else other than ourselves. Because once we have to confront ourselves and say, you know what, man, I did waste a whole bunch of time and it didn't have to be, then we have to confront another perspective of our bad choices in the past, you know. And that's one of the things that if you're looking to go deeper with God, you got to let your defenses down. You want to have to be willing to say, you know what, God, I was wrong, and I don't want to give any excuses for it. I just want to move forward. I should have trusted you sooner. You know, the people that I heard say things, I believed it, I fed into it, and there could have been a lot of things you've been told since you were younger that was not true. You know, but it's okay. It's okay. You know, you take the good and hold on to that, but then walk in what God says in his word. Let God be true and all men liars. And we have to confront the fact that we may have been misled into doing a whole bunch of more work and making a whole bunch of more mistakes when the answer would have just made things so much easier, so much. I'm saying when you're able to, I heard this one story about the gold rush, where this group of people, they were digging gold on this land. They bought this land, they were digging gold for this land for a long, long time, and they didn't get anywhere with it. So they didn't find any gold. So they ended up selling the property because they dug for so long. They said the gold must not be here. Someone else bought the property. Soon after they got the property. They dug some more, and they found gold on the same property. And the story goes where the people who sold the land one of them ended up just committing suicide, because and the reason where I get from that story, the person committed suicide because they did not want to live in they were much more comfortable in the illusion that gold was not there, and they don't have gold not because they didn't do something. It's because the gold was not there. That is more. They were more comfortable living in that illusion than in the reality that gold was there the whole time, and they just did not dig deep enough to find it. People can get very defensive about their illusions. That's why some conversations we as people do not have, because we know that people are sometimes more devoted to an illusion than they are the truth. And sometimes our actions kickstart conversations that will have us to confront illusions that not only other people have, but we have had, or illusions that they have tried to put upon us. And now the success that we're working to attain will now dispel that illusion. And somehow we get in the point where we may feel as though we love the person less because my life no longer supports the illusion they wanted to put upon me. You know. So when you're talking about believing God and going back to what we're talking about journey home, believing God for this house, this home, you have to understand that all of that is working inside me. You know, you're thinking of, it's not so much you're thinking of that. My mindset when I think about it, it's not so much of, you know, what would happen if God doesn't do it, but what would happen if God did do it? That's sometimes scarier than God not doing it. And when God gave the vision, that that really just that was like a climax. That changed everything. Because God's saying, I'm here and I'm willing to work with you on this, and I can do whatever you need me to do. That was God saying it, because if you don't get this angle because of me, I've given you a vision of me putting in your hand. That dispels any doubt that I'm behind you. So it's not up to me. It is up to you being willing to make the commitment, the uncommon commitment, and uncommon sacrifice to make a stronger connection with me. And if you're going to make that stronger connection with me, you're going to have to leave some of your bags where you are. You cannot bring those bags. You know how, like, you get on the plane and now you're going through security, and the security tells you, what, you can't bring this with you on the plane. This got to stay here. You on a plane to LA, that you in Chicago, they say, no, you just got to stay here with us. And you got this big bucket, this big area of people just leaving stuff because this is disqualified from being brought on. And that's how God is saying. That's how God's angels are. Look, some of that baggage that you have from your childhood and that belief systems, but that is nothing but man's traditions, man's wisdom, man's way of thinking. Can't bring this on this journey. Gotta leave it here. And we get to a point where, even though we spent so much money for the ticket or in investing into where we're going, sometimes people can get hung up about leaving something that's worth a lot less. But see, that thing, even though the value of it is a lot less, it has been a source of comfort at times. Sometimes our previous illusions have comforted so long, but now we're moving on to being comforted by something, by a replacement. And so it's like getting rid of your old doll or old teddy bear that stink and got all kind of stains on it. And now you try and move on to something new. People are quicker to hold on to the old thing. So now you have to become vulnerable to get rid of what has been comforting you. And so no longer depending on something man-made to comfort you. And now you're moving on to having something that God, or having God himself being the comfort. From where man used to comfort you, things of man used to comfort you, now God is saying, look, I want to be that comfort now. So that may take something that really could have happened in a year or 2 years. Now you're talking about 8 years. You're thinking through things, and you are, you know, having to make a decision on to let things go. And that's part of the reason why. And just going back, I'm connecting this back to the original conversation. I mean, what I originally brought up, because I want to connect this. That we say, okay, Stephen, why should I watch you now? After 8 years, and why should we listen now? It is because now I'm at a place where I'm ready to go. This whole 8 years, I haven't been completely ready to go, but I'm ready to go to the point where now I'm willing to become vulnerable, to let things that I was holding on to previously, I'm willing to let it go. I'm willing to have that conversation about past illusions with people that may not, and it may not be a comfortable conversation, but I made a decision. I cannot continue to allow man's illusions to affect my life when I know God has more for me. That when I get the house, if you want to try and discredit it, discredit, that's up to you. Can't control that. If that's going to interfere with our relationship, can't control that either. I'm willing to let any and everybody go who want to try and downplay what my wife and I are working on to make them feel better. I'm just at that point. I just saw the school that my daughter is the plan for my daughter to go to, and it's not what my wife and I expected. It's God promised us that she'd go to a good school. Good school. My wife said, someone prophesied to her, your children are going to go to good schools. And when we looked at the school that she is set to go, that's not it. I'm ready, everybody. I'm ready, and I'm ready to get focused, making steps. I'm ready to be vulnerable. I'm ready to be vulnerable now than I at any point. Because sometimes we get into things and we're thinking, oh yeah, we'll give we'll give up money, we'll give up a job, but to be vulnerable on the inside, that might be the biggest cost you ever pay during this process. So what I'm doing, I just wanted to kind of give you some update and just gonna let you know what's going through my heart, my mind as I'm going to this house. We talked about strategies, talked about quite a bit, but what I really want to do is kind of switch to the present for right now and just give you and let you all know what the deal is. Let you know, where I am right now. Right now, just into working out and getting up early, really making that not a spotted thing that happens, but making it a lifestyle. God is, just showing me there's some walls I got to break down within myself so that He can come in and do what He wants to do. Because it's not about me getting the house. It's not about me doing anything worthy. Don't get that twisted. And this is really God's doing. It's not my doing. All I'm doing is allowing God to work through me and use me in this. But it's really God doing it. It is Joshua 24:13 it's about what God is doing, and it is just about us receiving what He's done. And then allow Him to work Himself within us through the process. So today's Saturday, day 14. I'm gonna go out with the family, and we're gonna go out and enjoy ourselves. But what I want to do is even go deeper than the how to. When I was watching the guy with the dryer, I'm gonna go deeper than that. Because the dryer, he'll show you how to take things apart. We talked about that, right? He had started the part where he got the problem. He works through the problem. He watch you work through the problem, see his tools, you know, let you see everything he's doing. But I want this to even be a deeper encounter to that. I wanted this to be a step further. I want you to know, man, what was the man thinking, during this time? Because that can minister just as much as the answer. And just, what was he thinking? What was going through his mind? What was battles in his mind he had to deal with? You know, and let's connect, because I want to be able to give the viewer, whoever's viewing, to be able to connect this to this on multiple levels. Okay, I'm connecting to what you're saying. I'm seeing the good and the bad. I'm seeing the strong and the weak. I'm seeing the progress, and I'm also seeing the distraction. I'm seeing the hold up. So that's important. I want you to all to see that, because I want people to really be helped by this. I'm doing this with the intention of wanting to really see people helped. Okay, and I know that with God telling me to do this journey home, people will be helped. So I'm about to get out of here. I think we're gonna end up going to the park. So you may see me with another video at the park, which would be a beautiful thing. So stay tuned for that. And like I said, I hope that, through this is truly added value to your life. And and I pray and I hope that it's going to continue adding value to whoever's watching. And that you would get out of it, and God allow you to get out of it what you want to get out of it. So, okay, I'm about to get out of here. You all have a beautiful day. All right.